Good morning, everybody. Let me tell this link again. It's the morning tip-off with Imman, and I've got the wrong side, the very wonderful Nekias Duncan here this morning. Hello, Nekias.
The very wonderful. What an intro.
Hello.
I will take it.
Also, speaking of the very wonderful Nekias, so you have some things in the works. You've got the hottest new podcast in sports right now. And so I wanted to ask you, because I had just been sitting there being like, when is Nekias going to have a podcast? I think I messaged you one day and was like, where is it? The streets need it. And you came correct. So I'm going to assume that it's my doing that you have a podcast right now. Is that the case?
Yes, we're going to give you credit. This is your show, so therefore we should be, funneling as much credit as possible to you.
If you're lying to me already, I've got some Raptor questions for you that are going to make us Raptor fans feel good.
All right. I'm ready to atone for my sins, I guess, in talking about the Raptors while they were in a down period. It looks like they're on the way up now, so good for them.
Yes. Wins over a tired Mavs team and the Charlotte Hornets on the way up. I mean, what else can you hope for?
You got to play who's in front of you, and Toronto has won those games instead of lose them, so that's always a good thing.
True. That is very, very fair. All right, so I did want to talk to you about some news and notes. Obviously, the title, as people can see, has come correct on Kyrie Irving. I did want to talk about that, but before we get into that, yesterday was a whole slate of games, and finally, thank you, NBA, they did not give the Raptors a matinee. We don't have a holiday here. They've been doing it for the last decade. I don't understand it, but finally we got a 7:30 game. But some other teams had some exciting games at that time too. One of those is possibly the Eastern Conference Finals preview in the Nets and the Bucks. I was flipping between the Raptors game and the Nets and the Bucks game, so I do have some questions for you. Because one of the things that we've kind of consistently said about this Nets team is, what are they going to do with DeAndre? And what's their defense going to look like? And so I'm going to be completely honest, didn't watch the entirety of this game, but I did notice that they've just played DeAndre on Giannis, which made Giannis a little bit more passive in the moments that I saw. It seemed like he was settling more for jumpers and taking looks that he had no business trying to take. And it seemed like DeAndre was actually very useful in that matchup. So have the Nets kind of found their perfect matchup for DeAndre Jordan?
I think this is an ideal matchup for DeAndre Jordan. I wouldn't say perfect, because while the positives were, particularly in the first half, DeAndre Jordan just kind of hung back around the free throw line or lower while Giannis had the ball on the perimeter, just kind of waited on him to drive, and he's, bodied up and tried to contest from there. As you mentioned, Giannis did settle for some jumpers. He did settle for some very awkward, sweeping hooks as he was trying to get going. Yeah. So that was definitely a little bit weird. But then in the second half, you saw, or at least for me, I saw why I was kind of concerned about DeAndre Jordan in the playoff setting, because then the Bucks, they would have Giannis have the ball around the perimeter, but then you see these dribble handoffs around the top of the key.
Okay.
And DeAndre Jordan could not get out there to contest those shots. And then you get into the fourth quarter, and Giannis starts being used as a screener. And Chris Middleton is able to run pick and roll and just walk into elbow jumpers basically whenever he wanted to.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's a very good help defender. He's solid in isolation. Fighting over screens is not his strength. So Giannis will set solid contact there. Kevin Durant will get caught up. And then there's DeAndre Jordan basically at the dotted line below the free throw line. And Chris Middleton is one of the best mid-range shooters on planet Earth. So he was able to walk into a lot of those looks late in the game. And that was kind of my concern with DeAndre Jordan. You can attack him in space if you have a pull-up shooter.
Right.
That's not a matchup that the Nets are comfortable switching DeAndre Jordan in. They want to keep him around the paint, help him contest around the rim, get defensive rebounds. He's not a guy that's got to switch out on a point guard or shooting guard or a wing. So if you have a pull-up shooter like a Chris Middleton, you could basically generate a good shot whenever you want to. So I think you saw DeAndre Jordan's strengths and weaknesses on display in this game.
Okay.
And And I think that's kind of encouraging for the Bucks because they didn't really attack that matchup as well as they could have, and they still almost won that game.
I think that's a good way to put it. I was going to ask about that, how that frees up Chris Middleton, and we just saw him have a really nice fourth quarter up until the last moment where I'm sorry, I can't have you on and talk about Chris Middleton and not throw a little bit of slander in. So we're going to bring up my favorite game ever, which was last season against the Jazz, where if I'm going to see Chris Middleton take another buzzer beater shot like deep in the corner, I have to bring up this game. If you remember, Giannis had fouled out. I believe it might have been Bledsoe who was inbounding it to Chris, who was like, it was on the opposite side of the court there. He was like on the right corner there, deep in the corner, got the ball to him, and he traveled. Didn't even get his look up, but he traveled. And then, of course, Bojan on the opposite end hit that exact same shot in Chris Middleton's face. I just cannot see Chris take another one of those deep corner contested 3-point shots and not bring up that Jazz game. So I have to ask you, because I saw your tweet right after that and I knew exactly what you were referring to. What do you think about that play from the Bucks?
I wasn't a fan. Like, I'm fine with Chris Middleton taking that shot. Well, first and foremost,
at least you got it off. Progress.
You know what? I'll give you that. That's fine. He did get the shot off. But first and foremost, I was very surprised that there was not more time added before that play. Because Chris Middleton, Kevin Durant basically isos against Chris Middleton on the other end before that. He goes up for a pull-up jumper, loses the ball. Brook Lopez, I believe, is the one catches the rebound. Chris Middleton calls for timeout immediately. So I'm thinking they're going to have like 4.5, 5 seconds on the clock. But the clock runs a little bit after that rebound. And now we get 3 seconds left. So it was very odd that happens. We get a TV timeout, and there's 3.8 on the clock. So I think that kind of altered what Milwaukee could have ran there.
Duncan calling the shot clock. And I'm joking. I'm completely kidding.
I'm just saying we got to make sure we get the time right there. But the play call was very odd, very high difficulty look. Chris fires up a shot quickly, almost goes in, it doesn't. And then you look at the replay of that, and Brook Lopez and Giannis kind of flash wide open underneath the basket. So I don't know if Chris had time to get that pass off and also have a shot underneath. But the fact that that was that open was kind of concerning.
Yeah.
So the late game execution was not great there. And if we're still going to talk about Chris, there was a shot a couple of sessions before that where it's another pick and roll with Giannis as the screener. Instead of using the screen, he rejects the screen. This turns into a little bit of an ISO. Chris takes a pull-up three over Kevin Durant and misses it. And that was not a good shot at all, especially since the possession right before that one, he uses the screen, gets an elbow jumper, and goes in relatively easily. So I'm not sure why he decided to make things more difficult on us. Okay, fine. I guess you can.
not to get into like the hot takiness of the Bucks, because I've got some hot takes for you coming down the line. But kind of the biggest, I think, national media concern about the Bucks is this lack of a closer. And so when we're talking about their late game execution, and I think it might be a little bit overblown this year just because their half court offense has looked a lot better. So I just kind of trust a Drew and a Chris Middleton. Oh God, I just said I trusted Chris Middleton. 2021, you're so weird.
What is this?
But not having to rely on a Giannis. And I always kind of, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but there's this need for Giannis to have this face-up game or be able to close and do these things. Should we just be treating him like he's a big and just like not be asking these things that he just doesn't have in his game and just appreciating him for what he is? Or do we see someone like him that has the handle that he has and just expect him to kind of play like he's a Kevin Durant as opposed to like, no, this is like they're big?
I think it's a little bit both. Like, what we saw late games yesterday, him being used as a screener generated a lot of good stuff for another all-star / all-NBA caliber player. So like there are uses for him. Yeah. There's definitely an argument that him being used more as a screener or more of an off-ball threat is more valuable to Milwaukee late in games. Because most of the time when Giannis is on the floor, he is the worst shooter on the floor, especially now that Jrue Holiday has replaced Eric Bledsoe. So just looking at it from a schematic standpoint, like defenses have to account for those ball handlers in a way that they don't account for Giannis. Like even with Giannis hitting threes last night, it was DeAndre Jordan or whoever's guarding him hanging around the free throw line, not even contesting the shot. It's just kind of like if Giannis beats us out there, fine.
Right.
So from there, I think shifting that usage makes sense. Because
so do you think like this sort of criticism or this worry that people have of them having a closer is just overblown at this point because they do have Jrue Holiday right now, and we're kind of seeing this. I don't even know if I think it's a next level from Chris Middleton. I kind of trust him in closing games, and I didn't expect to watching the Bucks yesterday. And I don't know if that's just my bias, but
I think so. Like Jrue is a lot more reliable than Eric Bledsoe is on offense, which the bar is not very high there. But again, Jrue is like a former All-Star. Like he's had big playoff games before. Yeah. So he is a guy that can make good decisions with the ball. Chris Middleton is their best pull-up shooter by far. So you can give him the ball in late game situations, run those pick and rolls against drop coverage, and he can get you a good look. I think the concern lies against a team that switches everything. Mm-hmm. Because while Chris Middleton is a pull-up artist and a guy that can post you up, those are generally high difficulty looks. Chris Middleton is not a guy that's going to break you down with the handle and create a bunch of separation. He's going to go into his move and use the high release point to get a shot up over you. And that's more difficult. But Jrue Holiday is not an isolation guy. And then to bring it back full circle to Giannis, the post game is still not polished. The pull-up jumper definitely isn't there. So it is fair to criticize Giannis for not having a go-to move. This is something that Giannis himself has talked about.
Right.
Luka Andrews had a fantastic feature about Giannis trying to find his way into half court and trying to develop something to go to, whether it's just facing up and driving, if it's a post game, if it's just operating in the mid-range altogether. He's still trying to find something outside of putting his head down and dunking on people. So Giannis still needs to find his way there. Mm-hmm. I think the usage of him as a screener is a good thing, but there is a not insignificant percentage of that decision being because Giannis can't self-create at an elite level.
I think that's very fair. I did want to talk a little bit about the Lakers-Warriors game. I'm going to be honest, I didn't catch much of it until the fourth quarter when it got close. Was this just the case of the Lakers just taking their foot off the gas and not really treating the Warriors as a serious threat? Or like what happened in that game if you happen to catch it?
I did catch it. It was a very weird game.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers, as has been the case for basically all the games I've watched them in, it feels like they're operating at like 65%, 70% capacity. Like they're very much sleepwalking. And they led most of the game. Mm-hmm. But Steph gets more aggressive in the second half. Kelly Oubre knocked down shots, which is probably the story of the season for Golden State at this point. 23 points for him. Andrew Wiggins continued to defend well, which is weird. Golden State's bench in general played very well, which was also weird because the supporting cast for Golden State has not been great. But Eric Pascal, he scored well off the bench. Brad Wanamaker made a lot of timely hashtag little thing plays all night long. He kind of helped keep things afloat. And then you combine that with an aggressive step in the fourth. His step back three over Anthony Davis to kind of put the nail in the coffin was filthy.
Whew, that was nice.
It was, man, it's very fun to watch Steph dance on big men. It's crazy. But
it just like makes you giddy. I feel like there's a level of like giddiness in watching Steph do something like that I can't think of like another player that makes me feel that way. I love
he's fun. When he says, give me the ball, I have a mismatch. There aren't many better players in the league, and there aren't many more fun players in the league than Steph because he just throws up junk and it goes in because it's not junk for him. So I don't know, just some high level stuff between the leg dribble, step back from basically 30 feet over Anthony Davis. It goes in. He just backpedals like nothing happened. And I'm just losing my mind on my couch. So the Warriors end up stealing that game because once the Warriors started rolling in that fourth, the Lakers didn't really have a consistent answer. Some sloppy turnovers, some bad shots. LeBron didn't really put his foot didn't really put the pedal to the metal late.
Yeah.
So.
Or at all. Did he? Because I feel like in any of the moments I watched, I was like, oh, LeBron's chilling. I'm chilling. Let me change this.
Yeah, like a very quiet game for LeBron. So like it's not something that the Lakers are going to worry about. Like I think they're now 11-4. They're still at the top of the West, so it's not a big deal for them. They can still the best win of the season for the Warriors to this point.
So do you think that this? I'm not even going to ask that. I was going to ask if you thought this was a Western Conference Finals preview. No, but like, is this going to be the first round series? Is this what we're going to see in the first round? Is this a 1-8 matchup that we might be getting here? I could live with some more Steph and LeBron in the playoffs, even if the Warriors don't have a shot. Nice fun 4 games. Do you think the Warriors missing the playoffs still? Even with like the injuries that like Portland has right now, and
that's why it's kind of tough because I did my season preview and I had the Warriors getting in through the play-in, so I actually had them as the 1-8. With Portland being as hurt as they are, and there's also just general weirdness about the West right now.
But the whole league.
The entire league.
Heat and Raptor fans, we can attest to the randomness of this. This season's fake.
Yes. It's a fake season.
Season.
I don't know if I would go as far as to call it fake, but it's definitely hard to get a real feel for anything right now. You know what? I will give you that. But no, it's definitely been weird. Just COVID kind of sweeping through the league. I mean, you have your usual dose of injuries. So it's very odd for a team like Phoenix, I'll say, to get a hot start and then
be off for a week.
Yeah, they just miss a week.
Yeah. They just get their all-star break in January.
Yeah, like everyone's getting their on like all-star break in the middle of the season before the actual all-star break. So it's very odd to gauge like rhythm because if a team loses to a team that was off for a week, can you really criticize a team for play? Like if someone plays 3 games in 5 nights and then the other team hasn't played in a week because they played someone with COVID, you know, if the rested team wins, like you can take something from it, but also that's something you have to account for too. So I don't know. It's been a very weird season from
like a lot of words to call this a fake season, Nekias.
I don't want to call it a fake season. Basketball's still being played. It's just weird.
Have you seen some of these games? I mean, it's like generous to call it basketball sometimes. Until I see Siakam being Siakam, it's fake basketball.
Okay, now we're getting into it. Your agenda has been exposed. Okay.
It's always about the Raptors, you guys. I'm very predictable. All right, so the title of this episode is called Come Correct on Kyrie Irving. I would love to spend more time talking about some of the other games. There was Memphis Suns, speaking of the Suns, that we could have talked about, which I feel like maybe is part of what you said when a team has missed that many games and has come back and doesn't, whatever. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Kyrie situation. So Steven Jackson on the latest episode of The Rematch with Etan Thomas revealed that Kyrie Andrew Irving recently bought George Floyd's family a home. And so I've been tweeted about some of Kyrie's philanthropic efforts, including him donating $323,000 for food to families in need in New York, donating 50,000 masks and 17 pallets of food to Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, pledging to donate $1.5 million to cover the salaries of WNBA players who chose to opt out. I didn't even include him paying off the tuition for students from HBCUs. And so Kyrie's gotten like this really bad rap, and that's probably putting it lightly. Meanwhile, he's been very generous and one of the most philanthropic people in the NBA, but he gets clowned and downright disrespected a lot for his comments and for his behavior off the court. And for all the hand-wringing NBA fans had for Laura Ingraham telling LeBron to shut up and dribble, that's very much what people want Kyrie to do. And last night I got a first-hand glimpse of some of the thinking of these fans, and quite frankly, it doesn't differ all that much from Jackie McMullen's opinion that players are indeed property, and that's why they get paid millions of dollars. So So I have obviously so many issues with that. And like you mentioned on your podcast, there are the optics of it, which we can't really divorce from this situation or from this conversation because we do not exist in a vacuum. And so the history is very much still a part of it today. But even like for this conversation, if I were to move that away, there's still such a big issue with like with calling players or believing that players are ever property. And I don't know. So like a lot of these fans feel entitled to seeing Kyrie play and have attached his loyalty to his job to his worth as a person.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. Like being a bad employee is not an indictment on someone's character. So the response that I like kept getting to my Kyrie Irving posts, and I had two of them that got a lot of attention, and both of them was like, well, he can both be bad and good because he's bad to his team, but he's charitable. And it kept messing with my head because, like, why on earth are we comparing the two? One is about being a good person and bettering your community, and the other is an issue between him and his employer. And, like, I just, to me, it's just like, okay, someone can be the best welder in the world. They can love their job and dedicate everything they do to being a welder. That does not make them a better person than the other welder who just clocks in and clocks out, right? Like, to me, like, I don't understand how we, like, the disconnect in people understanding that, like, your life purpose not being your job is not an indictment on your character. So I don't know. I don't know what you think about that. Like, your value as a human shouldn't rely on how nice you are to your employers or how much you love and care about your job. We all have different life purposes, and it's fine if it's not our career. It can be the thing that we do for the paycheck, but not what we're driven to do or what we love to do. And that doesn't mean that we should quit. I also got a lot of people being like, well, he should just quit his job.
Yeah.
Why? He's literally one of the best people in the world at what he does, and he gets paid handsomely for that. Why leave that because it's not his entire world? If your job isn't your life, you should leave, because how would that be for literally billions of us around the planet? I don't understand it.
There would be a lot of people out of jobs if that were a consistent thing. But like, it's a layered issue, right? Because I don't think it's particularly fair to kind of kill Kyrie for prioritizing more important things than basketball. I do think there is a very short conversation, but a conversation nonetheless, about Kyrie communicating with his employer. That's one of the things I touched on the pod. Like, him taking the time away is less the issue for me. But
I agree with you, but it's like, it's okay, he's a bad employee. Like, even if that's the case, it's just like he did something wrong and he's a bad employee. I don't think that's an indictment on his character. That's an issue that him and his boss can take up. I don't understand why we're like, there's so many, I just had so many people talk to me about, like, okay, he can both be bad and good at the same time. It's like, I don't know, like a no call, no show at your job is like, okay, that's like, you should be more responsible than that and you shouldn't do that. But I don't think that makes you a bad person.
Yeah, the leap has gone a little bit too far there. And I feel like that's just kind of the theme of Kyrie Irving conversations in general.
Yeah.
It's either he's being completely absolved or, as you said, his actions are just a complete reflection of his character, which I don't think is completely fair either.
Yeah.
Like my major point was, if he's going to take the time away, whether it's because of COVID, if he just needs the mental break, if he just wants to focus on something else, like, communicate that with the higher ups at least, and then do what you need to do, because he doesn't owe the fans an explanation. He just doesn't.
Exactly.
Like, he doesn't owe the fans.
There's this real sense of like, you play for us from fans, which is like, not true. But also I do think that, like, I don't know if it's like just we as a society just put so much value on like people's jobs and tie that to their worth in a lot of ways. And I think it's only exacerbated with someone like Kyrie because of the pay that he gets, which is like a whole other issue. Like, even thinking of Jackie McMullen's comments about like, well, you're property and that's why you get paid the millions. No, that's not why he gets paid the millions. He gets paid the millions because that's industry standard for where he works. We as a collective in this society have put this, we have decided the value of the NBA. If we have issues with his high salary, we need to figure out how much we value the entertainment product, because the reason why they're making as much as they make, which has allowed them to pay Kyrie what he's getting paid, is because of the value that we've put onto the league. So this idea that like, well, he's getting paid millions and that's why he's and that's why he can be considered property, that's why you can move and teams can treat you in any sort of way. It's just like, I think it cuts to this deeper issue that we have as like this capitalist society, and not to get into that whole structure, but like, I don't know, like his salary is commensurate to his skill level and to what he provides to his team. And it has nothing to do with how indebted he is to his company, because that's not how salaries work. It's a quid pro quo. You offer them your services and they pay you. He didn't show up to some games, so he had a fine. And I don't understand how people cannot see it in that way, I guess.
Because they don't view him as a regular person. And like, obviously there are some racial elements that could come into play with something like that. But even if
I don't think we can divorce it at all from this conversation. It's very, very much there.
Yeah. So like, you can't really divorce that. But even if you do, we just have like this celebrity culture in general in this country, to where, you know, if you're good at an entertainment based product, you're put on this pedestal, and then there's a level of attachment, there is a level of entitlement, for lack of a better word, to your services. And then when those aren't provided, and you're not given a reason why they aren't provided, then people are upset about it. Yeah. And it's not completely fair. Like it, I don't know, like this feels like a podcast topic. Like legit, there are so many layers to something like this.
You can't get this in 2 more minutes. Okay, let's actually move on to something that I did want to have you here for. We're gonna go really, really quick. This is I was trying to come up with names, and this is probably should have went with this name, but I came up with Dunker Dish because you're Duncan and I'm Dishes.
Okay,
it works. So, how it's gonna go is I'm going to read off some topics. Some of them, they're all hot topics, kind of. They're hot takes, I should say. And you're going to tell me if it's a dunk, as in it's a yay for you, or dish, you're going to pass it out, it's a nay for you. Okay?
Gotcha.
All right. So, first one. Pull up my list here. All right. So, the first one is the Sacramento Kings 9th ranked offense in the league. So their defense is awful. It's god awful. We're not talking about their defense. Does them having a 9th ranked offense matter? No, because they're not going to be good because their defense is god awful. But they still, as a team who's kind of had a middling ranked offense for this last few years, are in the top 10. They ranked 9th. Aaron Fox, I almost called him DeAndre. We're talking too much about the Nets. Came off of his career high. And we're seeing the starting lineup that they have just kind of go nuts and actually have like a really nice net rating. They look really good. Their offense is really good. Do you believe in the Sacramento Kings offense?
I'm going to dunk that. I think the biggest change from last year to this year is that they are finally consistently playing fast. That was a very odd thing that Luke Walton did when he first got there. He just slowed things down in an effort to kind of improve the half-court offense, but also your point guard.
I feel like slowing the game down kind of works. You know, less possessions for both teams is better.
Yeah, I'm just like, you have De'Aaron Fox, man. Just run. Just run. Like, your defense is going to be bad, but run. Didn't anticipate it being by far the worst defense in the league. What is the streak now? Like 7 straight games giving up at least 120 points, I believe is what it is.
Bro, they gave the Raptors 144. That's when I was like, all right, we're out of here.
Yeah, like it's
the Raptors, who have the most questionable offense in the league right now. 144 without Kyle Lowry at that.
Yeah, it's dire. It's dire. But I do believe in the offense. There's a lot of talent. De'Aaron Fox is taking the leap. Sorry. Like, it's odd. The offense is good, and Buddy Hield hasn't really been himself this year. So once he gets back to knocking down 40% of his threes, like, the offense could probably raise a little bit.
All right, so next one. I guess these aren't really hot takes. They're just, are you buying into the stock of these guys? So the next one is, are you buying stock on Campaign?
I am buying stock on Campaign.
So you're saying he's a serviceable backup guard in the NBA.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think he's one of the best pull-up shooters in the NBA like he has been early in the season, but I do think he's good. Like, he can get into the paint, he can make basic passes, like, he's fine defensively. The jumper is good. So, I mean, he's done a fantastic job playing off of Devin Booker, so I'll give it to him.
Speaking of someone's jumper right now, Chris Boucher, do you believe in a shot? Not pretty, but it works. What do you think? Are you buying in, or do you think we see a drop-off? Because he's shooting, I think, 43% from deep right now. Are you buying stock in his shot?
I can't buy that much stock. I can't.
The dish of the game was on a rafter. My goodness.
I had to get you back. But no, like he's not that. I do think he can shoot, but he's not. Is
he a 38? Is that where you're thinking he's finishing in, like that 36 to 39 range?
Yes.
Okay. Next. So this is my one hot take that we threw in here. I asked you about this yesterday. This is the Ben Simmons one.
It's gonna be good.
Is Ben Simmons just scared to shoot free throws, and is that why he refuses to get to the line as in the way that he should and really attack the basket in the way that he should? Is he just scared of us seeing that free throw and looking like Giannis out there?
Ooh, I hesitate to call NBA players scared of anything, but I find it hard to believe. I will say that he is not comfortable getting to the free throw line. I'll phrase it that way. I don't think he's comfortable.
So do you think that's why he's avoiding really attacking the basket in the way that he should?
Yeah, like there's just a lack of force that he plays with that would lead to more free throws rather easily. Like he'll drive to one side of the basket and then try to lay up with the other hand and kind of contort his body to avoid contact. And it's just like, bro, you're 6'10".
All I'm hearing is he's scared to shoot free throws right now.
I think he has some concerns about his free throw shooting.
Okay, there we go. Next one. Is Siakam allergic to Florida?
This might be
bad in Tampa, was good on the road trip. I'm just saying.
We might have something here. I think that might be what it is. I think he is allergic to Florida. And to be fair, there's a lot going on in Florida. So I can understand why he may be a little bit uncomfortable is the theme of the show. I'll understand why he's
allergic to Florida.
I'm
kidding. The next one is, we've touched on this already. Is the season fake?
No, I don't think it's fake. I think there's just an adjustment for everyone right now as the NBA kind of covers their eyes with their hands as they go through a COVID stretch. So again, like the actual on-court product, like players are playing hard. Like there are some things to take away. Like the Bucks have changed their offensive scheme a little bit. We talked about the Kings a little bit earlier, committing to pace. So like there are still real things happening, but rhythm is still very much being established just because of the in and out nature of some of these players. So I don't want to call it fake, but it's definitely been weird.
All right. So I told you I'd take this out, but you told me it's my show. I can do what I want. So
it's true.
Is Trae Young just an average shooter who thinks he's Stephen Curry? Did you see that headline rolling around?
I saw the headline and I read the article because being
that's how the internet works.
Yeah, it's not. Like being a writer, like I'm empathetic to that. Like sometimes you just don't choose your headlines. But like, I mean, the theme is still that he takes tougher shots than his percentages would dictate. And I just feel like there's a lack of context there. Like,
Time out, Nekias. I'm not asking about the article. I'm asking specifically about the headline. Is Trae Young just an average shooter who thinks he's Steph?
No, I don't think he's an average shooter. I think he's
We got a dish on that. I was hoping for a dunk, man. I'm kidding.
I can't do that.
I'm kidding. Okay, last one. Kyle Lowry over everything. Dunk or dish?
I'm going to dunk that. Kyle Lowry has been fantastic this season.
And every season.
Okay, and every season, sure.
Thank you so much, Nekias, for joining. I had to throw that in there. This is a lot of fun. I love your insight, and I hope to have you again if you don't mind waking up super early.
No problem. We'll definitely work something out.
Thank you.